Being, so what? Under edit by foolish sociopath. 8.1K 4345. Advertisements. After sighing a few times, I felt it was time to move on to the next order of business. I'll be equipping the floor guardians with world items. World items are nowhere near strong enough to be compared with objects like infinity stones. One of them affects a world at most while the other works on a universal scale. Regardless, there is nothing wrong with being extra prepared. Since I'll have to go to the treasury, I'll have a talk with Pandora's actor as well. Despite his character, he is also very smart and has useful abilities, so I'll make him read the comics as well. Also, I can also send him off to make my slacker life a reality. Thinking so, I got up from the throne and prepared to leave. As expected, the guardians started making a fuss when they saw me leaving. Perhaps because I was planning on going alone as quickly as possible, or because I had only been in the throne room for about 10 minutes before I'm leaving again. Sorry kids, but you have deal with an unreliable leader. As their arguments for having someone accompany and protect me even within Nazarick were starting to annoy me a little, I finally said, fine, one or two of you can come along with me. Such a phrase seemed to have sparked a conflict as I did not designate who should accompany me. But I did not care. I was in a bad mood. This was how it would be for the foreseeable future. Yet, it seemed the candidates were decided rather quickly. Maybe as they were afraid I would be displeased that they took a long time to decide. Anyway, the winners were Sophia and Aura. I was truthfully a bit surprised that Albedo did not win in whatever method they used to decide, but chalked it up to the fact that she did not truly want to accompany me. Despite the angry and depressed face she was displaying, I was not Ains after all. I'll change her settings back to normal while she is reading comics. As the other guardians begrudgingly backed off, I teleported us towards the treasury. The treasury was located in a separate spatial plane and could be considered a separate floor in itself. Normally, one would need the rings of Ains Ulgaun to enter, but I was an exception as a master of dimensional magecraft. The entrance was a treasure hall that had a limitless ceiling. It contained vast amounts of wealth in gold and luxurious items. I didn't know our guild had this much gold, Aura said, genuinely shocked by the vast display of wealth. This gold is mainly used for resurrection. It is also a distraction for possible invaders. If they see all this gold, many of them won't even try to move further. That is, if they even made it here. There is an item called Blood of Jormungandr that makes the surrounding air highly toxic and prevents thieves from trespassing. I spoke a bit about the design of this place. We flew across the hall and reached the door to the treasury, which looked like a bottomless pit. Glory to Ains Ulgaun. I spoke, and a series of words in Latin appeared on the door. I spoke one again. With great sagacity it doth ascend gently from earth to heaven. Again it doth descend to earth, and uneartheth in itself the force from things superior and things inferior. And so, we entered the armory. Aura was looking around with keen interest. Her playful nature does complement such behavior. I guess I'll take Aura and Mare to play somewhere when I have time. Don't judge me, I'm very busy, unfortunately. Sophia on the other hand did not seem to care much at all. I know her settings well as I wrote them myself, and they were taken from my memory of her. I remember inputting possessive behavior into her flavor text to make her similar to the original, but maybe I accidentally created a yandere. There is also no Marizophus here for her to be a yandere, after all. Nothing about him or the Kumo Dezu plot was mentioned in her flavor text either, so she is fundamentally different from the original Sophia. No, while she is staring at my back very creepily, it is still far off compared to a true yandere like Albedo. She should just be concerned for my safety like other NPCs. At least I think so. I remember that Nazarick has many data crystals remaining and the guild level cap has been lifted, probably as this is not Yggdrasil anymore. Maybe I can try to experiment and create other NPCs in the form of Wrath or Ariel as well later. I can use the administrator skill to achieve this. This was not tested by Ains in the original, as truthfully there was no need for him to do so, but every NPC created is an addition to my strength. As I was lost in my thoughts, we finally made it to the lobby where Pandora's actor was disguised as Ains. Momonga-sama, Aura exclaimed. No Aura, that is Pandora's actor. Momonga's creation. Remove your disguise, Pandora. Pandora removed his disguise and returned to his original form and bowed towards me, followed by a salute in an exaggerated manner. Tilda, welcome to the treasury, Mina Guden Tilda. To what do I owe this visit from one of the great supreme beings herself? I could see Sophia throwing at his behavior while Aura may have thought he was funny. Anyway, I tried to defuse the situation quickly. I came to get world items stored in the treasury. You may also have heard about our transfer to this world. I have some tasks for you. Firstly, here are items that Momonga had left behind when he departed. Arrange them properly. I handed many of the items in Ains's inventory to Pandora's actor. Has my creator really passed away? I could sense the sadness in Pandora's actor's voice as he spoke. I am sorry, but that is the truth. I don't know what else to say, but know that I don't plan to be leaving anytime soon. That may be cold, but I really did not know what to say. I did not understand their dedication to me on a fundamental level. Nor did I have time for sentimental squabbles. It's okay, Mina Guden. I have had these last 2 days to think over this. At the very least, I have one last supreme being to serve before losing purpose in my life. I will complete the task you assign to the best of my abilities. Please assign me the second task as well. Even I did feel a little sad at this. Ha, Momonga, couldn't you have stayed behind for a couple more minutes? You would have made everyone's life easier. Very well. After arranging Momonga's items, go to the Grand Library to meet up with Demiurge and Albedo. You can study the information I have stored with them. Once you are finished, I will give you your next task. I ordered. When S minus Goda's will. He replied again in his signature exaggerated manner and moved on to work. Not before. I gave him my ring of Ains Ulgaun, of course. I did not want to be attacked by the golems inside. Now let's head into the mausoleum, I declared. Advertisement. 17. Mausoleum. Marvel, so I'm a supreme being, so what? Under edit by foolish sociopath. 7.7K 13,334. The number of world items that Ains Ulgaun has procured due to my existence has been increased to 15 as opposed to the 11 they had in the original light novel. The mini-world tree is on the 6th floor while its fruit was eaten by me. In addition, we obtained a Hora Mazda, Ouroboros, and also the world item that turns the user into a world enemy known as the Chaos Catalyst. Yes, the same world item that turned a player into a Lord of the Seven Deadly Sins, a boss monster. Originally after obtaining it, the plan was for Albert to use it. Having both the world disaster class and becoming a world enemy would make a truly powerful character. Eventually though, we decided it was not worth it. That player who used it in canon was a world champion but still got ganged up and killed. It could be useful in Marvel. I confess that I did not explicitly try to find and obtain more world items as I felt that it would be overkill for the new world. I somewhat regret my laziness now, but whatever. This also just got me thinking, where did the other players who went to the new world in the canon end up? Did they still go to the new world or come to Marvel as well? Or did they not go anywhere at all? Even if they did end up in Marvel, that is the least of my worries. It would be like adding a little more chaos to an already chaotic world. But this should be investigated as well. Finding out if they are in some corner of this universe, or if they are in this universe at all would be difficult, but that's where Mobius comes into play. He will find all that information for me. As we entered the mausoleum, multiple golden stone statues came into our view. These statues were avatars. Lady White, is that Buku Buku Chigama-sama over there? Aura pointed towards a statue depicting a slime. That is an avatar of Buku Buku Chigama. Avatars are golems who act as guardians of the relics they are equipped with. Since this place is called the mausoleum, does that mean that all the other supreme beings have passed away? It was Sophia who asked. Aura also turned her attention towards me. It was clear that every NPC wished for their creator to return. I just stared at them before replying. Yes, that is correct. I am the last member of Ain's Ulgaun remaining. I don't mind if you tell this to everyone. I was being brutally honest here. The other members of the guild will not show up here. They had already terminated their accounts. I held no hopes or illusions of their return like Momonga at all. Even if the NPCs decided to leave or kill themselves, I won't stop them at all. Surviving alone was something I was already used to after my experience in the labyrinth. Call me cold-blooded, but I simply lack the emotion to empathize with their feelings. Of course, this was not acceptable for the NPCs. No way, Buku Buku Chigama-sama. Aura started crying. Perhaps I was too harsh for a little kid, but the earlier the NPCs know of this and lose any feelings of hope or abandonment the better. If they did not, oh well. Anyway, I'll make it up to her later. Sophia was also shocked by the news but seemed to fare much better. Maybe because I was still here. I walked towards an empty spot and placed an avatar of Momonga. I quietly equipped it with his robe, rings etc. His world item still in the cavity of the avatar's chest. I took one last look at the avatar before giving a sigh of regret and turning towards the opposite empty space. I went over and placed an avatar of myself over there. Of course, I did not equip it with my items. Those will only be equipped after I die, which will never happen. I will make sure of it one way or another. Unbeknownst to me, such an action caused deep shock to Aura and Sophia. Both of the floor's guardians were thinking that the last Supreme Beings was making plans for her departure as well, possibly due to the unknown illness. Although they were shaken, neither of them said anything due to the prior discussion during their meeting. That did not mean that they would not spread the news of the death of the Supreme Beings as well as the plan of the Spider Goddess to depart as well to the other NPCs. This was a matter of utmost importance and all of Nazarick had to do its best to ensure that the last Supreme Being stays. Upon turning around to face the NPCs, I could see Aura trying to stifle a cry while Sophia just had her down. I guess Momonga's account termination has the NPCs even more depressed. I am not good with words, so I just walked over to Aura and patted her head before hugging her. It seemed she was shocked but then started crying again. This continued for a good 5 minutes before she separated. Sophia sent envious glances towards Aura after witnessing our interaction. I reverted to my normal mentality and just ignored her. After picking up the necessary world items, I teleported us back to the throne room. The room had Sebas and the Pleiades present who bowed at my arrival, but was otherwise empty. The Guardians had already left, presumably for whatever work they had. Demiurge, Albedo and probably Pandora's actor should be reading comics right about now. Sebas and the maid sent questioning looks over to the two lucky floor guardians. Maybe they were confused at the expressions that the two were showing. From their perspective, accompanying a supreme being was the happiest time of their lives, but Aura and Sophia did not look happy at all. Aura had just cried while Sophia was displaying a complex blend of sadness and enviousness. I shifted my focus away from them and thought about finishing off one of the important tasks that I was planning on accomplishing. Checking Albedo's settings, I thought, skill, administrator, which opened the menu once again. Upon fiddling around a little bit, I finally opened Albedo's settings and skipped over to the last line which read, she is deeply in love with, and nothing more. The space where Momonga's name should have been was empty. This left me very confused. Momonga did not enter his own name. This Momonga is very different from my memories. But why was Albedo giving me all those glares if she was not in love with Ains? Perhaps this is her true character. All of my previous conjectures about this whole situation were wrong. Most likely the command did not take effect at all as it was incomplete. Anyway, as long as she is not a yandere for someone and tries to sabotage my pursuit of laziness, it's fine. She can't love nothing after all, and there is no being in Nazarick who has an empty space as a name. She also won't love anyone outside Nazarick as she thinks of them as bugs. I guess I'll just leave it as it is for now. It won't do any harm anyway. 18. Library. Marvel, so I'm a supreme being, so what? Under edit by Foolish Sociopath. 7.6K 17,340. Advertisements. Third person POV. The sound of pages flipping was audible in the Grand Library of Nazarick located on the 10th floor, known as Ashurbanipal. This was obviously due to Albedo, Demiurge and Pandora's actor reading the books known as comics by the Supreme Beings. The undead skeleton mage, Titus, who was the chief librarian, could be seen carrying more such comics towards the other NPCs. After placing them, he went back to dedicate his time for research. Nonetheless, he had talked extensively with the 3 NPCs who had arrived in the library on the Supreme One's order a few days prior. He also knew about the situation and periodically brought them a set of comics when he felt they had finished their previous stash. Most of the books or scrolls in the library were related to summoning, while some had the purpose of hiding artifacts and items. A few of them were from the personal collections of the Supreme Beings. The comics were one such collection which would normally not be accessible to others if not for receiving permission from the Supreme Beings themselves. Titus had extensive knowledge of pretty much everything in the library and thus also provided them with books about Earth, its knowledge etc. that would be required for understanding these comics. All except the forbidden section of the library that dealt with books regarding the origins of the Supreme Beings. When he heard that the three guardians had received full access to the library, he was completely wrought with envy. To be able to gain access to this taboo knowledge was the ultimate prize bestowed by the Supreme One in his mind. Knowledge about their enigmatic creators was scarce after all. Demiurge and Pandora were surprised that such information could be accessed by them, but ultimately, the task at hand overrode all their personal desires to acquire this information. Albedo was desiring an understanding of Lady White so that she could determine how to approach winning her heart, but otherwise did not crave the knowledge of the other supreme beings. What does knowledge of those traitors have anything to do with me? She thought, not that she could voice her dissatisfaction with the supreme beings allowed in a tomb full of NPCs who worship them. Regardless, she was delighted when she heard the news from Aura about the passing of the supreme beings. Since it was Lady White herself who said this, then it must be true. This fact cut short the efforts required for her plans by a huge margin. She would not have to find and kill the supreme beings now after all. She also won't have to risk being branded a traitor by Lady White. While Demiurge and Pandora's actor took the news very negatively, the shock caused by Aura's next words caused them even greater pain. Albedo was also not spared from this pain. Aura went on to describe the events in the mausoleum and how Lady White was also making plans for her departure. This was absolutely not allowed. The other supreme beings had already left, they could not afford Lady White leaving as well. To serve the supreme beings was their only reason for existence. They had to accelerate their plans to find a cure for her and ensure that she stays and rules them forever, no matter what. Both these pieces of news had already sent deep shocks throughout Nazarick. Every NPC, be they an ordinary maid or the floor guardians themselves, were determined to ensure that Nazarick would not become a veritable tomb due to the departure of all the supreme beings. What caused them greater jealousy was Aura's experience of being hugged by the supreme being for 5 whole minutes. This was especially true for Albedo. Due to this, they buried themselves in work and digested all the information with even greater zeal than before. They had already read what the library had to offer on Earth. Demiurge was planning on gaining permission to incorporate this field called science to strengthen Nazarick as well. They had also gained an in-depth understanding of the multiverse talked about by Lady White. Moving on, they had read a few of this books called comics that used pictorial representation for storytelling. They now also had an understanding of why Lady White said that the underlying principle of everything is chaos in this multiverse. It seemed that the common rule and understanding that strength dictates everything was ignored in quite a few instances. The plethora of godlike beings who were defeated by those much weaker than them was incomprehensible. This planet, Earth, also seemed to be the center of everything happening in the multiverse, and the heroes and villains were always at center stage in one form or another. There were also some heroes who acted in a gray area known as anti-heroes. One example was a psychopath known as Deadpool. In one comic, he supposedly killed every strong being in his universe before going on to kill the universe's creator as well. This was incomprehensible to them, a creation killing its own creator. Such a creation had no reason to exit according to the NPCs. Such a world was too dangerous for the seriously ill supreme being to be present in. This was the conclusion they made upon reviewing this information. Despite what Lady White herself said, they had no doubts about the supreme being's almighty powers. The only reason that a supreme being would not be able to defeat these people would be due to illness. And due to this, despite the danger, the NPCs were drawn to the opportunities this multiverse offered. From divine artifacts like infinity stones to medicines, everything imaginable was available here. And they would make sure to get all of this and offer it to the Lady White. After all, everything the world had to offer belonged to the Supreme One. They just had to find it. They also deeply understood the potential that time travel held and were in awe of Lady White's foresight in planting Mobius as a spy. Not to mention obtaining these comics before even coming to this world. Speaking of the comics, some of the characters mentioned infuriated them. Such as the inheritors who hunt the so-called spider totems. Since these vermin would eventually try to hunt the spider goddess if this was true, they would ensure to them to the deepest depths of hell. As for these spider totems who committed blasphemy by taking the rightful title of the spider goddess, they would also share an equally grim fate. Not to mention, all these godly pantheons, such as the Norse and multiple other deities whose religions and myths will soon be spreading on this earth that was the center stage of the multiverse. All these false gods had to be purged as well and all their wealth and power given to Lady White. Everyone had to praise the Supreme One's name. All of this information would be shared with the other NPCs. The 3 most intelligent creations of the Supreme Beings were already making plans based on the information they had. They would eventually defeat all the cosmic entities, cure Lady White and offer up this entire multiverse to her. Advertisements. 19. Missions. Marvel, so I'm a Supreme Being, so what? Under edit by Foolish Sociopath. 7.6k 14,345. Ha ha ha, this is the life I want, I thought as I rolled around on my bed with no care about my image. I had already sent the maids outside the room under the pretext of doing something of utmost importance. Too bad this happiness is short-lived. I had received a message from Albedo that they had finished reviewing the comics. I asked them to spread the information to the NPCs before having a discussion with me so that I could extend my free time as much as possible. These past few days have been truly blissful, but I have to attend the meeting today and assign work to the NPCs. I asked Titus to conduct tests on how different magic and its mechanisms work in Marvel and then conduct experiments to manufacture scrolls. Since I have not mentioned conquering the world or anything like that, Demiurge should not get any strange ideas like he did in Overlord. Conquering this world is the definition of craziness and not to mention work. So I was careful in whatever I spoke with the NPCs, and looking back, I have definitely not said anything that will cause their brains to come up with such thoughts. All I wish for is good food and sleep for all eternity. Getting up from my bed, I let Sixus, who was the maid in charge of my care today, inside to clean up the room and then teleported to the throne room. All the guardians were present. Sebas, the Pleiades and some area guardians were present as well. Looking at the crowd, I hid my social anxiety and spoke. I assume that all of you have an understanding of our situation now. Seeing all of them nodding, I continued. Firstly, I have asked Titus to work on maintaining a stable supply of scrolls. Demiurge, you can work on finding materials for this in your spare time. As you command, Lady White. May I have the permission to research and incorporate scientific technology to strengthen Nazarick as well? Researching science and technology. Did he have this idea after reading the comics? It's not a bad idea. Science and magic are basically prevalent throughout Marvel Comics. Incorporating science into our strength would allow us to deal with enemies who specialize in technology as well. There should presumably be no drawbacks from this proposal. Considering it was Demiurge who proposed this after reviewing the information in the comics, the benefits had to outweigh any of the costs. So I said, very well, you can set up your own research laboratory to conduct any experimentation you need to. Whether it be for magic or science or something else entirely, Nazarick will support this research. You can ask for help from any of the NPCs required as well. Thank you for accepting this proposal, he replied while grinning maliciously. I knew he had a zeal for experimentation from reading the novels, but did science allure him so much? Well, whatever, it won't get in the way of my pursuit of laziness. I suddenly remembered about something he could research. So I spoke. Demiurge, you have read about the comics, so you know about the celestial progenitor and aspirant Zagreb, right? Yes, of course. I would like you to eventually conduct research so that Nazarick's inhabitants can gain immunity to the Horde. I remember reading that superpowered humans of Earth can cancel out the Horde's powers. If we can cancel out the Horde and gain the remains of the progenitor in Zagreb, then some of my plans can be accelerated. You can deny this task as it is very dangerous. I will accomplish this task without fail, my lady. He spoke with his head bowed down. I'm still a little worried as the Horde is very dangerous. Devise some contingency plans before actually conducting research. I don't want to lose one of the most important guardians right after coming to this world. Worry was clearly evident on my face. If something happens to Demiurge, my slacker life might as well die. He has to work harder for me for a long time to come. I'll review if he can handle this task before allowing him to conduct research. Ah, to care about insignificant servants such as myself, Demiurge was moved to tears. So were some of the other NPCs. Putting their weird feelings aside, I turned towards Pandora's actor. I then wrote. Within the next year, Keys of Lacedaemon will defeat the Triumvirate to become the next and last Sorcerer Supreme to wield all three eyes of Agamotto. I want you to disguise yourself as a positive karma human and join Kamar Taj. Learn all the knowledge of sorcery and mystic arts that you can and send it back to Nazarick. I already understood two systems of magic. The Magecraft or conjuring that was there in Kumodezu ga Nanika and the tier system of magic in Yggdrasil. Although the number of YGGDRASIL's magic spells that I can cast is not as high as Momonga, I can learn more magic without system restrictions pretty quickly. If I get my hands on more types of magic, I can create a brand new and more versatile system of magic eventually. The same goes for the rest of you. If you ever come across magical knowledge from this world, then try to bring it back as long as it does not cause any issues down the line. Yes, Lady White, they all shouted. I would have liked if Pandora became the Sorcerer Supreme as well so that we can avoid any danger or interference from the sorcerers in the future, but that was far too risky. Not to mention he might directly get caught upon entering Kamar Taj because they detected something was off about him. This whole move is a gambit. I have only read a few comics and watched some of the movies. I don't know how exactly things will go down if I played this move. Maybe in hindsight I would be overthinking, but right now my insecurities were stabbing at me. So I said. I will be honest with you, Pandora's actor. Sending you on this task is a gamble. It's great if it works out, but it will be disastrous if it does not. I will use the administrator skill to try and ensure that nothing seems off, but just in case, get a tempad from Mobius to escape if everything goes off the rail. I will also be keeping an eye on you. Tilda, since you are handing this task over to me, it just shows the trust you have in me. I will do my best to complete the task, meine Guten Tilda. While he spoke with the same energy as before, luckily, he did not make any weird poses in front of everyone. I should also check out what's happening outside personally once so that I have a basic idea about the world before handing out more tasks. I said in deep thought, which accidentally caused an uproar. No, please don't go outside. It is far too dangerous. If you have to go, at least take 4 guardians with you. Lady White, it is much better to stay in Nazarick. What happened all of a sudden? 20. Weaving time. Marvel, so I'm a supreme being, so what? Under edit by Foolish Sociopath. 7.4K 12,338. Advertisements. Why are these kids being so troublesome again? Why do I need 4 guardians to leave Nazarick? They let Ains travel around with just Narbril from the Pleiades, so I should be able to do the same. It will be easier to escape alone in case of danger, but they will definitely not allow me to go out alone. Is it because they read about Marvel so they are afraid of everything outside? Let's just try my luck once. Going outside at least once is non-negotiable, and I don't think 4 guardians are necessary. In fact, I thought about going alone. I conveyed with a serious face. I think I speak for all of us, but we absolutely cannot allow the last supreme being to go out alone. If you leave alone, we will risk insubordination and follow you in secret even if you don't want us to. We will then face any punishment you deem necessary. Albedo spoke up with a slightly crazy or desperate look on her face. I could see the other denizens of Nazarick nodding their heads. I just stared at them for a few seconds before sighing and replying that I will take a guardian with me. This was also met with resistance before we settled on taking 2 guardians with me. Ha, do they think I am going to leave Nazarick permanently or something? That's ridiculous. Nazarick is heaven incarnate for me. Moving on, I have to shift the topic before they start having more troublesome ideas. There is one more plan that I want to try out. Though there are aspects that might not work, it is worth trying out. So I use the chat software once more. Albedo, this next order is for you to carry out. You will oversee this entire operation. Yes, my lady. I want you to use the tempad to place the eggs I create using my egg-laying skill in different points in time in safer areas at that period of time. These areas will be called temporal sanctuaries or safe zones. You can send the Horonia at first along with shadow demons attached to them and have them stationed in these safe zones. Then increase the workforce dedicated to them slowly, such as golems and undead. The idea is to construct safe havens at different points in time or different timelines altogether. I can go and chill in these safe zones whenever I want to. I can go sleep as well as have food and delicacies from different time periods. Of course, that is not the most important reason, even if it is my major personal consideration. As you know, the multiverse is chaotic. These temporal sanctuaries might help us rebuild much more easily in case some enemy defeats us. Since Nazarick is in my pocket dimension, all I will have to do is go to these pre-planned points in time and set up everything once more. I understand, my lady, but why do you wish to place eggs you create in these sanctuaries as well? Well, it's to conduct a test as well as a contingency plan and security measure, I replied. Contingency plan? Yes, I had prepared this method much earlier but never had to use it. In case I am killed, I can transfer my parallel minds to the egg and revive once more. Of course this method was designed to work at the exact same time as I died. What I want to try to experiment is the concept of time-displaced resurrection eggs. Do you mean? Demiurge seemed genuinely surprised. So did Albedo and Pandora's actor, but the other NPCs did not seem to understand what I was hinting at. As in, if I am killed today then I will automatically revive inside one of these eggs scattered across time. Naturally, this might not work. I would not be surprised if it did not. But if it did, it would.